well done, we've made it to the end of the week. So we're going to do starters, which involve multiplying out and simplifying and factorising. And then we're going to do a little bit more practice at factorising by completing the square. Okay, so well done if you've stuck with me all this way, because that means we've made it to the end of our brackets and factorising chapter. So fantastic, well done. Okay, so to start with then, expand and simplify. Remember, if you know what you're doing, just pause the video, do the questions, and then skip to the bit where I give you the answers. Okay, so first one, expand and simplify. Right, when we've got a cubed bracket, it means it multiplies by itself 3 times. So we've got quite a lot of multiplying to do here. First bit, we're going to multiply the first 2 brackets together and then multiply by the third one. So that's going to give us, and I'll just do it by drawing on, 2x times 2x gives us 4x squared. Then 2x times negative 5 gives us negative 10x. And as we know from our practice at squaring brackets, we get another negative 10x. And then we've got a plus 25. I'm squeezing that in there. So we've got 4x squared minus 20x plus 25, which we're going to multiply by 2x minus 5. Then we're going to multiply everything in the first bracket by everything in the second. And the way that I'm going to do this today is I'm just going to point, okay? So I'm going to do the 4x squared times these 2 things. Then I'm going to do the 20x times those 2 things. Then I'm going to do the 25 times those 2 things. Okay? So first of all, 4x squared times 2x is going to give us 8x cubed. Next thing, 4x squared times negative 5 gives us minus 20x squared. Then we're moving on to the minus 20x. So minus 20x times positive 2x gives us a minus 40x squared. And then we're doing the minus 20x times the minus 5. So a minus times a minus, or a negative times a negative, gives us a plus. And that's 100x. Okay, next bit. 25 times these 2 now. So 25 times 2x gives us plus 50x. And then 25 times negative 5 is minus 125. Okay, so when you're multiplying a bracket with 3 terms by a bracket with 2 terms, you get 3 times 2, which is 6 terms. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so simplifying, we do it in descending powers of x. So that means the highest power of x first is our x cubed. Then we've got our x squared, so we've got minus 20x squared here and minus 40x squared here. So we've got minus 60x squared all together. Then our x's, we've got plus 100x plus 50x. So that's plus 150x. And then we've still got our minus 125 on the end, and that's the end of that one. Righto, so the next one, my minus 7 squared, we can actually use what we've been learning this week, and we can square that out without even writing any working down. So remember, you get the first thing squared, you multiply the 2 elements together, and you've got y times negative 7, so that's negative 7y, and you double it. So that's negative 14y, and then you get this squared or multiplied by itself, which gives you plus 49. Okay, and then on to the factorising next. So factorising, okay, let's think about our methods for factorising. So we need to work our way through. Do we see a common factor? Well, look at these 2 terms. There is no common factor there. Is it a difference of 2 squares? Well, that's a squared thing, and that's 5 squared. So yes, it is a difference of 2 squares. So 2 brackets. So v at the beginning, and then it's 5 squared is 25. So 5's at the end, and 1 plus and 1 minus. Those of you that completed the assignment, it was really great to see most of you have totally got the hang of completing a square. I was really delighted to see that. Well done. Okay, that's that one done. So now we're on to factorising this expression here. So we can look common factor. Nope. It's not a difference of two squares because we've got 3 terms. So it is 3 trinomial. So we'll factorise it as a trinomial into 2 brackets. So remember what we do is fill in the beginning of the brackets first. We write down the factors of the 3rd term. We look at the sign of the 3rd term, which is plus, which means that the signs in the brackets have to match. They've got to be the same as each other, and they've got to be the same as this one. So they're both minuses. And then look at what we're needing to make is negative 9x from this and this. So if we look at our 3 pairs of factors, we can't make 9 out of 1 and 20. We can't make 9 out of 2 and 10, but we can make 9 out of 4 and 5. And if we just check, this times this is negative 4x. This times this is negative 5x, so that gives us negative 9x, and that's what we wanted. So the answer is x minus 4 times x minus 5. Okay? Right, so completing the square. I've written the steps down where I've just highlighted which bit you fill in at a time, okay, as you're going along. And I'll do an example at the side of this so you can see what I mean. Remember, this is what we did yesterday, and rather than trying to write it all out in words, I was just, like I say, thinking about the positions of what you do in what order. Okay, so let's start off with x squared plus 12x plus 20. Okay, so if we have a look at our first step here, we need a squared bracket and we need to put the thing that goes there. All right, so let's do that. Let's make a squared bracket, and the thing that goes here is always just what's squared at the beginning, so that's just x. Okay, working down the list, so we've done that. So this bit we need to find out whether it's plus or minus and what goes there. So what we look at is our middle term. Okay, remember when we square this out, we do that times that and double it to get this. So that must be plus 6. Okay, so we've done the second bit now. Now we need to remember and take off something. We've got to find this. And the thing that goes here is always that thing squared. Okay, so regardless of whether that is a plus or a minus, this is always a minus, and it's always that number squared. So 6 6s are 36. Okay, remember you've still got the plus 20 because we haven't dealt with that yet. Then all we do is simplify. So this is the last bit here that I've tried to explain, is you work out this number on the end. Okay, so what we've got is x plus 6 squared, and we've got minus 36 plus 20, so that's minus 16. Okay, so there are steps. You find out what goes there, what goes there, what goes after the bracket, and then you simplify your numbers. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, and the more you do of it, the easier it will become to you. Okay, so we've got a few examples to do here. Again, if you want to pause this, just do them and then check once I've got the answers up. All right, so factorise by completing the square, and another way of phrasing that is express in the form x minus p squared plus q. In other words, you're finding what goes here and what goes here. Okay, that is not necessarily a minus, and that is not necessarily a plus, but that doesn't matter. That just means that your answer should be in that shape where you've got a squared bracket and then something added or subtracted at the end. So let's do this first one then. So remember, what we do is make a squared bracket, then we decide what goes in the beginning of the bracket, and it's whatever you've got to square to get this, so it's x. Okay, then to get what goes here, you basically just half this number. So that's going to be +1. Then you always have to subtract whatever you just wrote down squared. So 1 times 1 is 1. And then you still need whatever you had on the end there. So that's +3. Remember, excuse me, this lesson continues on from yesterday's lesson. So if you want a bit more in-depth about why we're doing this, then you can look at yesterday's lesson. So all I'm doing today is reminding you of the process and how to do it. Okay? So we just fix this now. So we've got our x plus 1 squared, and then -1 plus 3 gives us +2. Okay, next one. Squared bracket, x at the beginning. You put half of this term in the bracket with the x, and then you subtract what you just wrote down, but squared. Oh, sorry, that's me trying to talk and write at the same time. 6 squared is 36. And then remember, you've still got your +40, and then you tidy up what's at the end. So you've got your x minus 6 squared, and then minus 36 plus 40 is +4. And that's that one done. Next one, squared bracket, x at the beginning, half of this number in the bracket, then subtract that number squared. You've still got a -19 on the end, so you've got x plus 9 squared, and then -81 minus 19 gives you -100. And that's that one done. And then next, squared bracket, x at the beginning, half of the coefficient of x, so that means the number multiplying the x, so half of that, take off that thing squared, you've still got +70 there, so you've got x minus 8 squared plus 6. Next one. So we're just rattling through these because it's the same process every time, and I just want you to practice. Okay, so squared bracket, x at the beginning, half of this number in the bracket, take off that number squared. Oops. And again, that's me trying to talk and write at the same time. So take off that number squared, and then you've still got the other number. So you've got x minus 2 squared plus 2. And the last one that we're going to do today, squared bracket, x at the beginning, half of this number in the bracket, take off that number squared, and then you've still got the +200. So altogether, you've got x minus 10 squared plus 100. Okay, so there are practice questions for you to do now. It'd be a really good idea if you do practice doing these on your own, because sometimes you can think that you know what's going on, and then actually when you try and do it yourself, you hit a bit of a stumbling block and you need to look back and see what's gone wrong. So can you please make sure that you absolutely can do this? Okay, so great stuff, well done, loads of algebra there. We're going to go on to something different next week. It won't be quite so algebraic, I don't think. Okay, so I'll see you then. Well done so far.